travelers, and welcome to The Way of the Showman, where we view the world through the lens of showmanship. I am Captain Frodo, and I will be your host and guide along the way. And today, we are having the third of the episodes about Another Sunset, the show that Jay Gilligan created for the Den Fantastica Platzens art studio in Stockholm, and it is an exploration of juggling and collar, as the faithful listener, such as yourself, who no doubt will remember. And this is probably the deepest dive that we have done, where we're spending 3 episodes explaining the process, explaining the creation of the props, because Jay had ideas that he needed to actually manufacture juggling props, which we heard about last time. And today, although last time I prompted it to sort of go straight into starting with the juggling of the black clubs, there is actually one section of the show that is a sort of pre-show. And Jay talks a little bit about pre-show, what role that has and why that is important, and how he has used that in previous shows. And then so we're taking it kind of from the audience arrives right off the street into the studio and into this glorious room filled with juggling props in more colors than anyone has ever seen before in the history of juggling. So if you didn't watch the video or the documentary of the show, then I'll post those links again for you to watch, and then you will see the beauty of the colored wave of balls and the impact that I don't know how many hundreds of rings or whatever displayed out on beautiful stands throughout the space in a glorious sort of circular rainbow effect. Very nice. Anyway, we are jumping straight into the show. So we're back. We've arrived into the art studio. The spectacular stuff is lying on the floor. The wave of balls and the ring cycle is standing around with all the different colors of rings. And you come in. You've just juggled hot potatoes. And as people came in, we haven't mentioned that as they came in, they have all these.
Well, I wanted to talk about that actually. Okay, if you don't mind, we could start there.
Yeah.
And then we'll jump to
because we sort of skipped that because I jumped us straight into it.
Well, the thing is, going back to the idea of like we wanted to be in an art gallery to get out of theatrical time, and it's good to have a conversation about color in an art gallery. Blah blah blah. Part of this too was when I worked on the How to Welcome the Aliens show with Eric Langekel. I still maintain that the best version of that show is the dossier, the PDF of that show. When you read it, you really get the fantasy and you really get the concepts on that PDF. And I think you imagine into them, oh my goodness, this is going to be such a cool show when you read it. And the second best version of that show was when our lighting technician came, who I'd never met before, and he arrived at midnight to this theater where we were having a residency. And it was just this little tiny kitchen. And we sat around the kitchen table, the 3 of us, me and Eric and Thibaut, and Eric and I explained the show to him because he said, hey guys, so when I'm here, we're going to do the light design for the show. Like, what's the show? And we just took turns over the course of an hour kind of acting out the show and standing up from the table and miming. And it was an incredible little session there. And of course, I'm really proud of how that show came out in real life, but just at each iteration of kind of, I just never forgot that journey of like, the experience of these concepts was really cool in written form. It was really cool around a kitchen table. And then, something gets lost in translation when you make things concrete for the stage. You lose that possibility of fantasy of anything's possible because you have to start to make real life choices. Yeah. And so one of the goals I had of being in this art gallery and then again speaking to the audience, which was a late choice in the process, was I really wanted to attempt to have because the whole point of speaking to an audience was to make the work again accessible in the way that I have a specific point of view, and to not make it alienating and fourth wall up to those people who wouldn't normally gravitate towards such things. So if I'm gonna talk to the people, I might as well I wanted it to be intentionally accessible. Yeah. I didn't want it to be opaque and just talk in rhymes or talk backwards or made up language or something. I wanted to be direct. That's what I was trying to do, was to be direct. And part of that was I thought it would be so much fun if I could keep the conversation as casual as possible, sitting around the kitchen table at midnight. And I thought every time I went to try to write the first opening line of the show, when I stood on quote unquote stage, even though there's no stage, it's an art gallery, there's no physical raised stage. And even though there's only 10 people in the audience, it's not thousands of people to have this grand opening line. It's very humble. It's very unpretentious. I mean, it's just 10 people in a room and me. We're just hanging out. But even then, I couldn't get over that barrier of the first opening line, kind of setting up a tone. Again, we're in an art gallery, so there was this tone of seriousness to try to overcome, which was a whole other story. But I had this idea of like, man, I really wish when I start talking in the show, I wanted it to feel like we were continuing a conversation that we'd been having previously.
Yeah.
So then I thought, oh, what if I literally did that? What if I literally had a conversation with them before the show started individually, and then collectively when they all sat down, when I start talking, it's like we're already friends, we already know each other. So
something has already started, and this is just the formalization of the why we're here, but we've already broken the ice, and it's like going, as I was saying.
So it wasn't weird, yeah. So we had a relationship already.
Almost like Eric in his paper, where he starts the paper by going, I don't think I told you about this thing.
Yeah.
And you just pick this paper up, so you go,
it implies that he's been telling you other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I thought, okay, how can I have a conversation with the people before the show starts? Well, I'll be at the door, and I'll welcome them when they come in the door. And then I thought, oh, maybe... And for How to Welcome the Alien show in France, I gave out champagne glasses to the audience. That was awesome because I got to meet every single person individually, and I got to connect with them and hand them an object, and it was a champagne glass, and invariably people got super happy. Like, oh, free champagne? Like they were already in a good mood for the show. Yeah. So it was actually a really nice little moment. But then I thought, okay, am I going to have something for this thing? Am I going to do the champagne thing again? Or do I have hors d'oeuvres or like candy? Or do I just say, hey, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming. We're going to start soon. I thought, nah, I really want to have an excuse to talk to them. Mm-hmm. And so this little hors d'oeuvres serving tray of champagne glasses turned into, when I was creating the show over the past 15 years, I have accumulated a lot of stuff about color. Not only books by Joseph Albers and other people, but also, I ordered a bunch of color sample papers from like a paint company. You know, I had like 2,000 different samples of color, and they come on these little like cards, like 3 by 5 centimeter big cards of, you know, just paint samples.
Yeah.
And so I had those in the back room, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be funny if instead of like hors d'oeuvres on the tray, I just had like little swatches of color, and then when you came in the room, the perfect introduction would be like, hey, can you pick your favorite color? Yeah. And then I thought a good function of that is it, number one, gets people thinking about color because they're confronted with, hey, pick your favorite color. Mm-hmm. And then second of all, it's a personal connection to them. They're already making a personal connection to the theme of the show, right? And it worked out really well. And it turned out, so that actually did work out well. I greeted people at the door when they came into the theater, the art space. I said, hey, thanks for coming. Can you please pick your favorite color? And hold on to that. We're going to use it later on in the show. And that also became a running through line in the show. I used the card 4 different times over the course of the show in the text of when I'm speaking to kind of have a running red line, a little bit of an arc, right? A theatrical arc to the piece using those cards. So that's what happened when people came in. And then when they sit down, before I juggle the potatoes in the microwave, the first thing we do is we look at the cards. We show the cards to each other. Oh, what color did you pick? So we have a little communal experience, and we get to see people have different preferences for different colors.
It's a very good thing. I really like it, because how do you introduce and get people to reflect in a personal way about what the show is when it is as abstract as color? Color is in a way very concrete, but how do you actually connect to it? And this now starts as well, that as soon as the people comes into the room, they were confronted by meeting you in a relaxed environment.
Yeah.
And nothing has happened yet, and you're just going like, oh, pick your favorite color. And it's all this sort of like, I don't have a favorite color. Well, whatever resonates with you, and then think about why that resonates with you. Now everyone has taken a direct step into a relationship with color, and then using that 4 times throughout the show keeps connecting it back to them. They're sitting there with a piece of business-sized
business card,
sized thing of color that is they're holding in their hand. So it's like you've directly involved them in the process somehow, and it brought color in a personal way, and it's a very clever way that, as little as it is, we know as well the effect of that you dig down on somebody. You pick the card. Danny D'Artise is big on this, and then he goes, it's like going, you picked the 7 of hearts, but I'd like you to pick another one. Can you, or do you want the one that you wanted?
Yeah.
And then they just dig down and they want it. He gave them that
exactly
beforehand.
They double down.
Yeah. So they go, I want this one. I don't want to change my mind now.
Right.
So now they like have this color, and they sort of go, all of a sudden when everyone's holding them up, they sort of go. Well, certainly I do. I always dress in black because I find it intimidating to have some conversation about, why did you choose this? I want clothes that don't say anything so that I disappeared. I don't know. Whatever that is going on in my head. But
now you got to hold this card up and
you're holding
you stand
it up
for it.
Yeah, I now chose this. I'm waving this mini colored flag up, and I'm pinning my name on this somehow.
Well, so, I mean, there was another function of that tray, that little encounter at the beginning, which was good because we weren't in a theater space. And I think anytime you're not in a theater environment where all the seats are facing the same way, there's curtains hung up on either side of the stage, the wings, and there's lights focused on the performance area, the stage. Anytime you don't have these unconscious clues, people either kind of freak out. They don't really literally freak out, but like they unconsciously don't know how to behave. If it's in a performance space, I mean, you come into an art gallery, there's not normally a live show there. It's normally you look at paintings hanging on the wall or sculptures on a plinth in the middle of the room. But the function of the tray was, so already from the beginning, we acknowledge we're in a weird situation because I'm the artist and I'm talking to you. We haven't started yet. You just came in the room and I say, pick a favorite color. It's already kind of, it's not extremely weird. It's not like out of your mind. No. You're not impressed. You're not blown away or confused.
But you're destabilized and you're put into another context now. Things are going on here. We're setting the bar a different place.
There you go.
And you're picking up the card and you're now walking around. It's a random thing and you're uncomfortable because you don't know this person and they're just going like, pick your favorite color. You just pick it and you want the person to go away and you do. And now they're calm in there because all they did was to pick this. They weren't put on the stage to make fun of or whatever. Yeah. But you've made that connection and you've had it. So now like you've approached them, but you haven't
in one way the
intimidated them.
Yeah, in one way the pick your color was like the wings and the curtains and the chairs that were you know what I mean? It takes place of the infrastructure of a normal theater to draw them into a performance, to get them into a mindset of like we're doing something here, we're having an experience.
This is an art experience.
Exactly.
And you so walk around with a thing which could have had hors d'oeuvres or whatever on it, but it's got these cards, so that's like, oh, there's aspects here. I go, we're doing art now. Great.
And of course it was funny. We don't have to get too deep into this, but of course it was hilarious sometimes of how people were confronted by this question of pick your favorite color, because of course 95% of the people were just cool and they took it seriously. Like I'd say 100% of the time, no matter the reaction, they took it seriously, which was cool. So most of the people, they wouldn't just pick one frivolously. They would look around and like, I really like red, and like they would kind of find the red they wanted. I thought that was cool. Yeah. They took it a bit seriously. That was fun.
And there was more colors on the tray than what there was people.
I had like 100 cards on the tray, you know, and then of course there was the 2% of people who were like, my favorite color. Oh, I don't know. And it was such an intimidating question. It's along those lines of like, hey, who's your favorite band, or what's your favorite movie? And then people who, I mean, I'm one of those people too who get stuck on that, who don't dare to name their favorite band because somehow if they speak it into existence and they made a mistake, they will get like punished or they'll feel bad. And I had to prompt those people, of course, to be like, because then I would say pick your favorite color, and then they would be like, oh, I don't know. Oh man, oh no, because of course they don't know why I'm asking them to do that.
Maybe
and I
this
understand.
will have consequences later.
Exactly. Yeah. So then eventually I'd have to say like, well, why don't you just pick a color that you like? And that relieved them of this superlative, favorite color. Yeah. And then they could pick one. And then the other, like 1% of people or whatever, was also funny. Every once in a while, you know, once maybe per show, one person, I'd be like, can you please pick your favorite color? And they'd just be like, I don't have one. And they would just take a random card from the tray. And I was like, I mean, it was so, not making fun of those people, but it was so personal and so immediately coming out of them, this reaction to pick your favorite color. It was such an instigation that they were just immediately like, I don't have one. And I was
That's
like,
great. This then becomes a little bit of a research into people's relationship with color too.
Yeah.
I don't know if I actually have a favorite color, because I wear black, but it's not because it's my favorite color. It's like.
But again, you have a kid, right?
Yeah.
Does your kid? I mean, I guess growing up, at least your kid. This was a constant conversation. What's your favorite color now?
Yeah, it was like yes, it happens.
So it's always
and
so
then
funny.
I usually just sort of invent something.
Yes. Yeah.
Or whatever,
and
and I make a thing,
Yeah.
but maybe it's for exactly those reasons that I don't want to take a statement on what
Right,
color
right.
is the right one, because what if it's the wrong one?
Yeah, what if
and I
it's the
change
wrong
my
answer?
mind?
Yeah. No, exactly. No,
But anyway.
so I had this idea of like, I wanted to speak casually in the show. And I would say like in the end, I mean, you saw the video, but like, I don't think I succeeded totally in that, because the language that, so I worked on the script with you a little bit, and more deeply with Joe Fisher, who's a juggler out in Las Vegas right now. And he's he's an astrophysicist. He has a degree from university, so he's like a real dude with his astrophysics. And he used we ended up using a slightly elevated, a little bit academic language in parts of the show. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. A little bit more formal language. So it was kind of hard to have this like totally chill. We're sitting around our kitchen table just jamming like we're doing right now with me and you, but still have these kind of like a little bit elevated speech in terms of formality.
Yeah.
Or academic speaking. But anyway, it was a really nice entry into the show. And so then the potato speech comes with a lot of talk about the science of color and how the eye works and how waves of light works. But then the thing I saved from the first iteration of the show in 2020, which was the contemporary circus version, was I wanted to start the show with 5 minutes of juggling things that had no color, that were black.
Yeah.
The absence of color, so that when color came after that, you would really appreciate it even more. And I think that worked. I don't know if it translates on video, but I know live, I definitely got some unsolicited comments about that effect a few times over the course of the nights. I did the show 9 times. And I know, I really like that idea that, if you're gonna shout, the first thing you can do is whisper. The opposite of it. So there's a range to judge the shouting from. And it was the same thing with the color. It was like, okay, I'm going to do a color juggling show. So of course the natural inclination was like, I should start the first piece off by juggling all the colors. And then I was like, oh wait, actually let's make this a journey for the audience and like consider the experience. And so the first thing I juggle is things that are all black.
Yeah, and it's in that I also then see so much of the juggling that's going on now uses white props, like we've talked about in depth. So this is a version of that, where the prop are in a sense then invisible. They're white. There's some neutral thing that don't stand out, so that you will see the juggling clearer or whatever.
Yeah.
So you've done the opposite, because you're not in a theater space where everything is black and the props are white. You're in a white space,
right,
and you're juggling black props.
Yeah.
So the black props is like, in a sense, going, they don't have a color in the way that you describe it or whatever. Like you set it up, there's nothing going on in terms of color, and there's just this, and then it starts with just juggling.
Yes.
In a way.
Yep.
With neutral props.
Exactly.
And you've done the neutral thing in the art space.
Exactly.
Which is, in a sense, what's a huge part of the professional community, that you'd see a juggler, you will see this.
And if you want to get really deep about it all, I did juggle all the colors at the beginning, man, because black is the absorption of all the colors.
Yeah, right.
And in subtractive color mixing, all the colors make black. So,
Yeah. So you juggled everything, and you juggled nothing. So it is the yin and the yang, but it's mixed together even more than that.
It was kind of fun though. It was like a nice little experiment that kind of paid off of like.
And it's a great thing to start like that, and then it's like when you have atonal music or a noise music, and then all of a sudden comes a clear tone, and then that tone is followed by 3 or 4 more tones that now, after being in a landscape of sound, what is it called, the Silver Apples of the Moon, there's one of the earliest electronic sounds by Morten Subotnick, where he has a song called what is it called, something bull something, whatever, and it's going along, and I listened to it, and it goes for like whatever 10 minutes, and it's just this that happened, and all of a sudden this of music that's non-repetitive but still kept my interest. Analog synthesizers in the very beginning, and then comes in this theme of interrelated notes that create some sort of music, and the way that my brain and your whole being just like goes like, oh, something just happened in here, and it felt like it had been, which it had kind of been emerging out of the, and this feeling of like, there's a pattern here. There is something that's speaking to me in the language that I understand. Again, felt overwhelming, and I'm hoping that there was something like that then happened. Because how does the transition actually go from juggling the black clubs? You're just juggling 3 and then 4 and then 5 clubs. And it's all black clubs, so it's basically a well choreographed, cool routine with clubs. I should say I could say too. Now we're getting into more deeper mechanics of the whole show, which I kind of find a couple of things to share with you. I haven't told you this, but I did mention at one point that the speaking, the text, the juggling, and the music choices, the soundtrack in the end, all on their own. I don't personally think they kind of stood on their own, which is weird because normally, at least for me, in any show I make, at least the juggling would stand on its own. And somehow I really wanted this show that like all those things together would stand on their own. And I think that worked out for me, because one thing I was just going to say, you were talking about, what is the structure of those black clubs, and is it choreography? What's the piece like, and how does it move on from there? Is I had commissioned that piece of electronic music for the original version of the show. And one thing I realized was, in terms of having a specific point of view, is that, colors are emotional, at least for me. I mean, and also a lot of studies about the psychology and absolutely
So I thought, having an ambient, textured, electronic soundscape is just too cold. It's not really emotional. It's not really relatable. It's just this it's beautiful aesthetics. But there's nothing really warm or human there to connect to. There wasn't really a point of view to it. So I actually sat down over Christmas this last year. I was with my family in Finland. And so, taking a little break from the festivities, and I got my computer. I'll work a little bit on the show on the road. And I redid the soundtrack. I made a little playlist of songs that I thought I really connected to emotionally. This is actually really funny. I got back from Finland to Sweden. I got into the studio, and I had set up that circle of rings. I finally got the little ring stands, so I could set up the ring cycle around me in the space. And I stood in the middle of those rings, and I kind of felt something. I mean, I've had these rings for years, just to say. I got them made years ago, but I had them all set up finally for the first time with
15 years
with the stands.
Has led to this.
Yeah, and I'm in the middle of this circle of rings with all the stands, and they're all there, and it's cool. It's cool looking.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And I'm standing there, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I press play on the computer on my playlist I made over Christmas, and I'm just like, this doesn't work. These songs are wrong. This is not feeling right. Like, this is not going to work. What's wrong here? And then I realized all the songs I had chosen were instrumental. There was no lyrics. There was no singing. And I thought, oh, of course. I'm in the middle of these rings. It's kind of, I say emotional. That sounds dramatic, but there's different levels of being emotional, and it was.
But it is emotional. They don't have to pull any punches on that, because if you go into a room like what we just did, there's another exhibit on in that room,
right.
And there's just colored things around. It was painted perspex. Someone's painted intricate patterns on perspex, so it's semi-transparent, and it's like, and that is the sum of the art. And you have, like, I didn't make this connection until I just said it, and you have perspex, you hadn't painted on it, but you balanced balls on perspex all the way through.
Right.
So those two
that's
are...
true.
And that's the sum of it. So,
right.
And I see those things, and I have emotions. I had to touch it. I'm going, is it glass?
Yeah,
is it plastic? How are they created these shapes? Because
it just creates an interest.
It creates an interest.
Yeah.
It creates this is what art does, and so
absolutely. I realized. I thought, oh, but then the songs need to have people singing on them, and then I could craft really intentionally a mood and ambiance. And I settled on I wanted to have music that was done by artists who were guys who sing in falsetto voices. There was something about the fragility of these guys singing in really high registers. So it was just people like, Justin Vernon from Bon Iver and Oscar Trausti from Iceland and Francis and the Lights, etc., whatever. It's just like pop music, but like guys who sing really, Jonsi from Sigaros, whatever. I don't know. It's like an aesthetic. It was like a quality that was really... And I ended up picking music for the show. I don't even like the music, some of it. I genuinely would never... Like, I've heard these songs before, and I'm just like, I don't like that song. Somehow it fit the show, and in the show, I really like it. I think it crafted this mood in this environment. And that was kind of fun to have another aspect of the work define those kinds of choices. Because I always speak about that in my life. I always tell my students when I'm teaching at the circus school, hey, when you're doing a juggling show, for example, I'll tell my juggling students, the ideas in the juggling can inform the costume design, the music, the light design, whatever. And I know intellectually they always kind of nod their head and look at me like they can comprehend what I'm saying. I don't think they fully feel it emotionally, what I'm saying. And here was a really great example of like, I'm letting the work affect actual choices in the show for real. And if you come to me in the show and you say, hey, why did you pick that song? I don't just say, well, because I liked it, or I don't know, it was cool. I actually have a little journey, a little experience to kind of back up. And not only that I think that I'm so cool or clever to justify the choice of music, it's not that. It's more that I think the actual process of that had a real impact on the show, had a real meaning in the end result that you end up experiencing. And I think there was some sort of truth, again, that I had found from, again, my point of view to share with an audience that really did resonate. Again, many comments just to say, after those 9 shows, here and there, people would say, wow, the mood of the piece was really something that was felt.
Cohesive.
That there was a mood. There was a mood. It wasn't just
and it was incidental all the way. And that is always a hallmark of a well-crafted show as well, is that each bit is not just I often think of it, I'm good at making acts, because that's been the major part, and I feel like I'm moving into making solo shows that I would like to make 3 in a row or whatever.
Yeah.
Express myself in long form, and that I have been writing short stories, and my shows have been like anthologies or compilations of short stories. Here's one thing, here's another thing, and I got to come up with some way to link this to the next one, which is how circus originated. Here's one thing that's amazing. Here's something else that's amazing.
Exactly. The normal way they're linked is that you do one after the other.
Yeah, they're linked because I did these things and they're in a row. And in a normal circus or a traditional circus, you would have a person come out that's unrelated to either of the acts and just say some stuff. And then they would go in. If it takes a long time, some clowns would come in and do some stuff.
And they're related in the way that there's a format that's established in our world that we can relate to.
Yeah, we got these belong in this because of that.
When you go see a variety show, you're not like, what's happening now? You're just
why
like,
is it different?
Here's the host.
This is it.
Yeah.
So this show is that, and that's another thing. You're in that space, putting the things around you, and you now feel, okay, we got to change the music, and you're going into domains that you haven't even particularly got a strong personal relationship to, and that's amazing. So that's great. That's how I felt it from watching it the first time as well. It's a shallow representation to watch it on the video,
sure,
of course, but I still got that.
So the juggle with the black clubs to this song. And then do another little speech, again, kind of bring up a different point of view about color. And
when you talk about the artist, isn't it? How
that speech, that speech there is like, what does the yellow ball want me, like, that basically, I don't remember all the lines from the show, obviously, but like this idea that artists used to use colors. They would just, I'm going to take this color and put it over here, and then along comes Kandinsky, and he kind of asks the color, blue, how can I serve you, and what do you want to say, yellow? He becomes subservient, a servant of the colors.
Yeah,
and that's
he's taking the color
idea.
for what it is, and it's significant in this show because you are kind of still, you're not just wanting to take the colored ring and juggle it and go, I'll choose red or choose blue, because if it, like, you also want the audience to relate to it in a certain way, and you've invited them by choosing the card, so they're choosing a color to go, and that resonates with them, and then we're asking them to resonate with this. So in a way, without telling them to, by just saying, hey, you should try to connect to these colors and see what comes up.
Right.
You are citing aspects from you did directly again, link to Ivar Heckscher, say I've spoken to my friend, and he told me these things of this was an aspect from art history of how artists through history has changed their relationship to color. And by pointing that out to them, that this happened in art, I'm not saying, and also juggling is also art, so maybe that should happen now, and maybe you can be like an artist yourself and connect yourself to the art that you see here, and then you expand your relationship to color.
Right.
So maybe with that, you are pointing to it and you're leading them to the water, and they can choose to drink it if they want. Because then after that, you start juggling with balls. It's the
thing we learned in Reflex, right? We did that run through halfway through the process in June of that 1 year, where we learned that you can't, seems obvious now, but you can't tell the audience what to think. And what you want to do is put two images next to each other and let the audience fill in the blanks. That's where the experience happens,
You leave a room for them to live themselves into the show.
Or relate to it in their own way, that they find a connection there. And
and our task in this show, then our task, I did your task is to invite the audience into it. And because it's in an art context, but I'm just always aware that I am a little bit afraid that it's not going to be too pretentious. If we come out and talk about Big Bang and light waves, but then we anchor it in juggling hot potatoes.
Right.
So that just makes it okay. And here we talk about these colors, and it is these genuine questions, and you don't even say in those, please take that in and consider it. But because that's the only thing that you say. That's like a concrete thing that you say. Like they chose then to look at color differently.
Yeah, exactly. It needs to be a little bit open-ended. You say, well, this is the first way we generally all look at color, I think. When we go to school and you paint a picture and you're 5 years old, you're using the colors.
Yeah.
And then what if the colors used you? It's like a little funny idea. And then you do some juggling after that with some color.
And it's as deep or as shallow as you want.
It leaves the question open. Oh, wait, is he being subservient to the colors now? Or is he using them?
That's right.
And you don't want to fill in that blank and say concretely, that's a lecture then.
Because then you basically pick up the balls.
Watch now when I throw the blue ball really high.
Yeah.
It's not that. There's some ambiguity there that you need to breathe.
Which is something that we no doubt talked about as well. Like that's like this one level where you can do that first. Then you go, what does that mean? And then you... Yeah.
Well, so one funny thing is because I worked with Joe Fisher, and he's a great juggler, an amazing juggler, and so we were working on the text a lot, and he kept also wanting to talk about the juggling, and because of the time of the process and the rhythm and everything, I was like, no, we're not talking. No, don't worry about the juggling. I got that covered. I kind of did that to you too in Reflex, in a different way, right? We were just like, but don't worry about whatever. We don't need to get into that now. But just this idea of like. Yeah, the juggling's going to be fine. In Reflex, it was a different thing. But here, it was really fun because I really felt that the juggling was going to take care of itself. The juggling was the one thing of this show that I was convinced by was really going to speak into these themes and really we didn't have to stress about it at all. And there was one moment that kind of solidified this idea for me, which was back in 2020 when I first made the original version of the show. Eric came to visit the studio. And I wanted to show him what I was working on and show him kind of everything in the show and see what he thought. And he walked up to these balls that I had covered in different colored balloons to get them to be different colors. That's part of that was the limit of my manufacturing process. Is I could take different colored balloons and wrap balls in them, and then there's a different colored ball. And Eric walked up to these balls and he looked at them on the table and he said, "What do you do with these?" And I said, "Oh, I just take 3 of them. And then I do different 3-ball patterns with them, and it's super cool." And Eric's like, "Oh, yeah?" Because I think on the surface, that doesn't sound so cool. I pick up 3 balls, I do 1 pattern, and Eric goes, "Wow, that's great." And I go, "Yeah, check this out." I just take 3 different colored balls, do a different pattern. He's like, "Amazing, that's perfect." And then we put the balls back down. I didn't touch them.
Don't have to do anything more, no.
I touched them again.
Concept, it's... And that's the weird thing in this too, which we have to try to convey. like you see it in the video or whatever, but it just works.
Well,
you take up the colors and it
well, that's a question for you.
Juggling.
So that's because the thing is, in that moment, Eric's this juggler. We have this deep relationship for 15 years together, more of friendship and professional working life. So he immediately got the shorthand when I said, "Oh, but this, I just pick up 3 and juggle them," and he just immediately got it. And he was just like, "You're right, that's perfect." And what he meant was, this is ticking off all the boxes of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. And that's it. It's not that thing just is mind-blowing.
Exactly, yeah.
And it is that, yet again, that thing on its own, if you come out and did that, people would go, yeah, that's pretty much what I thought this was going to be.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to juggle the red balls, now I'm going to juggle the blue, and get this, I have just juggled the rainbow. Good night.
Exactly, yeah. And the thing is that those colors of balloons that I chose, it's from Qualitex balloons, and there's 135 colors. And I got all the balloons, and I tried out all the colors, and then I just picked the balls that I thought were the best ones, whatever best meant. But I'll have to say, one of the criteria of best was I've never seen a juggling ball in that color before.
Yep.
And as trivial as that is, man, and trust me, I get it. We're not curing cancer here. Don't get me wrong. But
Yeah.
For me and Eric to stand in that studio in 2020 and see that collection of balls in front of us, of colors we've never seen before, of a juggling ball. I can't describe to you how that made us feel, but it was big. But and just to see a ball that was skin colored. We had a skin colored ball. How stupid is that? But to throw that ball was weird. I'm telling you, man. You can think I'm crazy or whatever. No, it sounds crazy telling you, but it was weird.
I keep thinking of it as if so artists have only had those 6 colors. These are organized by the government. These are the colors that artists use. Right. And then all of a sudden the wall comes down and you now have 123 colors, and you put just that color on the canvas and you go, I think this work is done now.
Yeah.
I have to make one more now. Right. I have to make one work with all one of these and just put it on the canvas. And it's because I haven't ever seen this before.
Yeah, it was weird.
I just felt like I broke some ground. Yeah. And maybe some of that is lost on the audience, because instantly when you see them all, you go, oh, he bought all the colors of rings. Wow.
Totally.
And they don't know that that's like a thing. But
no.
So this is revolutionary on one. But that's also why, in a sense, you don't talk about the juggling in the show. You spent the whole show talking about juggling, just last show.
Right.
They don't know that, maybe most of them, because they weren't in New York.
Right.
But, and then now you are bringing the color in, and you want the color to speak to itself, and just let the juggling be taken for granted, because that will speak to you in all the ways that juggling has spoken to you and to the world since you started juggling or whatever. So now you continuously throughout the show, you juggle the shaker balls. We'll just skip to the end of the next thing that you do.
Yeah, you call them the shaker balls because they're filled with sand. They're the Russian style, so it's like a clear shell. A plastic shell with sand inside, so when you catch them, they make some noise.
Yeah.
And just to say, in each of those patterns in that piece, each ball was colored a different color, and then you could trace the orbits like we were talking about before.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I don't know how that came across through the screen, but that was kind of in real life. It was just a repetition. It was in the song was there was one song without any lyrics, but it was a Steve Reich piece that was just repetitive, and then you could just repeat the pattern, and you could start to pick out. Oh, the yellow ball does that.
And this was exactly sort of this to me is then, I had a terrible first viewing. I really recommend you watch this. If you can watch it on TV, do that.
A big screen.
Well, but there will be another version of this where you get a little bit more close-up.
This was just the one camera shot. Yeah. I'm editing now.
But it's also so that I would have wanted to see it now. So it was an unfavorable situation. I was told about it at 10 at night, and we needed to get up at 11 at night or whatever.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and I watched it on my phone.
Yeah.
And all the show still really hangs together in music and movement and everything, but just the phone is a little bit too small to get the power of the colors. But I can still see it, and because we've talked so much and I've seen the objects and all that, I can also easily imagine myself into it, and everything is amplified when you're actually there. But exactly that, I feel like there's then a little mirroring between what's going on in this routine, which is, in terms of a juggling routine, a little bit boring or whatever, because it's not it's not high, low, fast, slow, and then a joke.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's look at this, and when you then bend down and you pick up another set of balls in another color, takes a little second, and then you go, oh, and you start to identify what's going on inside.
So it was literally 12 patterns in a row.
Oh yeah.
So if you want to contrast that towards a normal, quote unquote, normal juggling routine, it's nothing, man. It's 12.
And then how long does it last? Like 3-4 minutes or something?
It's actually. I don't know if on the video. In real life, it lasted 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay, probably
it was long.
Yeah,
and but we're asking the audience to care on a different level of detail.
That's
right?
exactly
and
right.
If you don't care,
because we're not showing them. Look how fancy this juggling is. Yeah. We are looking them. We are taking juggling and utilizing it as what does it mean to juggle different things. And because there's so much movement in any juggling pattern, when you then introduce colors into it, and it takes a while for the audience to be able to take it in. Just like within a symphony, you can't do all of the notes at the same time. They need to be spread out. You have you need to spread it out so that they can hear each theme, and each theme need to be developed properly so that when it comes to its natural conclusion, it's grown up, and then you feel this sense that you get when it reaches its crescendo. I was like, oh man, not all of the themes came together, and this is amazing. And although this didn't really build towards like pattern 1 led to pattern 12, now all of the colors from the first thing has built up. It wasn't structured like that. It was like 12 vignettes or whatever
And part of that again
is structure, of course.
Part of that again is being in the art gallery and trying to be free of theatrical time and theatrical arc and theatrical structure. Like it's a flat structure. It's 12 patterns. It's democratic. They're not hierarchical. They're not in some sort of journey. They're just like, here's a list of them,
which could be seen as this is level 1.
Yeah.
Because then the next level, you can take this same show and then you spend the amount of time when you remount another Sunset 2.0 or whatever. Like the next time it gets commissioned by a gallery.
No, that's the title. It's just another Sunset.
Yeah. But in your mind, you know that it's not the same thing. It's the next level too. So we know that now there has been, you used 100 hours on one, you're going to use 100 hours now on really analyzing and structuring that piece, so it's not just like 12 things which are connected but not now they'll be woven even more, and maybe because you then know it more, the show is 15 minutes longer because now it was 45 minutes.
And also with a deeper knowledge of what those effects were on the audience.
Yeah, exactly. So now you know those things, and then you take all of that into account and you use it to shape the next thing to be further like that. So it's not, because you have to kind of start somewhere, and you have so many ideas from 15 years of thinking about this that when you put that into a 45-minute piece, you are trying to capture as much as you can of what's relevant and what of the explorations can really speak to an audience.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
and then
what happens after that?
So the next thing is, we talked about Joseph Albers before, and Joseph Albers really wrote the color theory for two-dimensional color. I mean color on the page or with paper or painting or whatever, fine art, kind of color theory, and just all of the psychological and physiological effects of viewing color and how they relate to each other, how light works and how the eye works and all these things, and it's just amazing. But one thing that I'm not aware of, but that I know Joseph Albers had done was the movement of color, like color in movement. And I know there's been a few artists, of course, who have dealt with that, but definitely not so formally as Joseph did with the two-dimensional colors. So the next piece is just juggling. I have this we call it the ball wave, this three-dimensional frozen wave of balls on these tubes in the front of the stage, and I select certain shades of the balls to juggle in patterns. Again, it's quite related to what you just saw with the balloon covered balls, but this one was a little bit more in the direction of trying to take some of his ideas from the two-dimensional world and translating them into the three-dimensional world with movement, which again sounds like pretty lofty and heavy and big and high goals and whatever. At the end of the day, it's not so, it's not so meticulous or so crazy. But that was the start. I was like reading this book from him and was just like, that's pretty cool. That effect sounds pretty cool. What if I tried to do that in 3-dimensional space with things that are moving instead of just being static on the page?
Yeah.
And so, but that piece also is one of the pieces in the show with these colored beanbags, where and that's where the fabric had been hand dyed to match the color of the rings, so that this set of balls matches the colors of the rings. But that piece was really pretty tightly choreographed to music in one way. Well, tightly, but like more than say the previous piece, which was just 12 patterns in a row. But this was like a little composition to a piece of music, like the Black Clubs was. So little stood on its own, kind of as a more like a traditional act,
and not. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So that was that piece. I don't know. I think that was probably my favorite thing in the show. Yeah. In the end, pretty short piece, like a little over 2 minutes long or 3 minutes or something. But yeah, I really liked how that piece turned out. I don't know, and I also really loved the story. So that's another thing I learned was like, we did the Reflex script together, and so much of that script, which was its strength, was that it all linked together, and there was these callbacks and loops and arcs and stuff, and that really made it hold together. And there's a reference about space here and a reference about space there, and then blah, blah, blah. It adds up to something in the end. But after I did the Reflex thing, I got invited to do some showcases with the show. Like, so you just go and do a 10-minute excerpt that kind of has to stand on its own. And the first excerpt I did, I was pretty intimidated. Because, like, how do you take a 75-minute piece and just take 10 minutes out and have that be cohesive? That was a pretty daunting task. And you had the audacity to go find other work or something. So, like, you weren't around to help me every day work on that script. I was suffering alone. Like, why need Frodo for this? Like all seriousness, I was suffering. And so then I actually end up writing a different ending to the show for the 10-minute excerpt, which was the Halley's Comet.
Oh, yeah.
So I do the Evar balls that fall apart and decompose. And in the show, in the real show, we build 75 minutes of context for those balls at the end where they fall apart. Well, I only have 10 minutes. I can't build the same context. So I found a shorthand for it, which was to say, I'm going to do a tribute to Halley's Comet. And a comet, of course, is falling apart as it burns through space, and eventually it will disappear into nothing. And in the year 2061 will be the next time you look up into the sky to see Halley's Comet. And so I'd like to show you a tribute to that. And then I do the Evar balls. And that moment stood on its own. Mm-hmm. That was like a powerful experience for me to go, okay, I can craft stories that stand on their own.
Shapes the piece.
So for this colored beanbag thing now in Another Sunset, I really liked it kind of stood on its own with the story at the beginning, which was an idea from Joe, which was, I start off with a red ball and a green ball, and he says, imagine you're standing on the green ball, and I'm juggling the balls. Well, the red ball will rise and set like the sun because they're orbiting around each other in the 2-in-1-hand pattern. And then the speech goes on from there. But that was like a really powerful little metaphor that kind of entered people into that moment, I think. Yeah. And then at the very, very end of the piece, I go back to juggling 2-in-1-hand, the red and the green ball again. And that speech also talks about how sunsets are eclipses, and that when there is a sunset every day, and then I did the show 9 times over 9 days, and I just had the time of the sunset every day. So today the sunset at 5:16 p.m. because it was back in February here in Sweden, or whatever, and I could change the time every day and really talk specifically about real things happening. Again, connecting to these people's experiences who are in front of me. Like today, the sunset at 5:16. Like you also experienced that, so did I. Like we can't escape that. We're here in Sweden at this time of the year on this date, and that's when the sun set. And then I say, but to understand what's happening, because all of the swirling, the speech is something like, out of all the whirling, swirling chaos of the universe, we get what we call a sunset, which is a very romantic, cultural, word phenomenon, but it's actually just a coincidence of all these celestial events lining up that the Earth goes in front of the sun.
From a point of view, you're standing in one spot, and whatever planet you're on is moving in relation to the sun, and when that dips behind one, then you have a sunset. Or a
and you say it's a sunset. Yeah, exactly. And so then the end of that speech is something like, the sun set, but we didn't really comprehend everything that was happening in the universe because it's too much to think about. But the universe keeps going on whether we know those things or not.
Yes.
And the sunset once more today, and it will set again tomorrow, meaning that this will all just keep happening, and we can have a little glimpse of a different point of view, but it doesn't really matter to, yeah. And the other theme of the show, just to say, is these different points of view, they also affect what you're seeing, and that's color.
Yeah,
color's relative. So
I found I can't remember what bit it was, but this thing with me, like the act of paying attention. Ian McGilchrist says the act of paying attention is a moral act, because the way you are paying attention to the world is shaping what you see, and it's then shaping your relationship to the world. So that resonated with me when it was.
That's actually the thesis of the show at the end. The last speech of the show is the
apotheosis of it.
Yeah. So then that's the little sunset with the little guy on the green ball, which is fun.
Yeah, and it's I also really I pointed out that I really like the 2-in-1 hand juggle that you do at the end of the ring cycle as well. And then this with the two-in-one hand of the ball in the beginning and 2-in-1 hand in the ball there. Yeah. That's repeated again in a powerful thing, which at the end of the ring cycle where you just juggle 2 rings in one hand, and it's, as far as I remember, 3 throws with each hand. Or 3 throw with each, 1, 2, 3, exactly. And then you put 1 ring onto your head.
Yeah.
And
so I have a stack of like, I don't know, 16 rings in my other hand, and it's gradually
changing color.
Yeah, it's a set of rings that fades from black to white.
Yeah.
Through the colors of gray.
Yeah.
And so every few throws, I'll just pick up another ring, so that if you're just looking at the peak of the pattern, hopefully you'd see a color, like a slow fade from black to white was the idea.
I mean, you see a slow fade of black to white regardless of where you look in the pattern, because the reality of looking at it is like, if you think, as people might do when you ask the general juggler, we have the light like that and all they can see is this one little thing. But
right.
The difference between watching the video of this watching a video where you have controlled what they see is that they're using their eye to zoom in. When I look at the video, you get the whole thing all the time or whatever. Right. But when you're in the live thing, I look at your hands, I'm going, oh, I am now seeing what's going on. You have many rings in that hand. And then you start, and the whole pattern is changing. So it's like, it is happening at the peak, but it's also happening there. And you're in quick darts of the eye, you're taking in the whole situation of what's going on.
Right.
And because you're in an art space, because you've said all the stuff that you've done and all these things, I think they were more tuned to look to those things. If you just did this with ambient music and you juggled the 2 rings at the end of the ring cycle 40 minutes into the show or 37 minutes into the show, they might not pay attention like that anymore because they've been left to their own devices for so long.
Right.
And I don't know if there is any similarity between that. Then I'm going, like, you're looking at the room, and if all of the paintings were just on the wall merging into each other, like one long, you thought of them as separate things, but they were all just one merged thing in the, then it's harder to know what's what. It's good to have them as these discrete, here's one picture, and here's another picture, and you can each time live yourself in. You read the little plaque and you can guide yourself into and you read the name of it, and you go like, oh, okay, now I see what, and maybe you know come in from one end and go around, and it tells you.
That's funny. I never thought of that. The little speeches in between the vignettes. It's like it's a little white card next to each painting. That's cool. I'm gonna think about that more.
Placing it into a context and giving you some reference. Like, again, I talked about on one of the last color episodes now about David White, who gives you this pointer. I was in this space when I was writing it, and I was sitting at the top. I had just been break up with the love of my life, and it was a terrible, terrible time. And I sat alone in a house that we were supposed to be living in together, and I wrote this poem. And you tell something more specific as well. And then you read this poem, and then you hear all of a sudden, each little twist of the lines speaks directly to you in one way, but still the poem immediately also, like, you know that he's saying this is about pain, but the way the poem now works is that it connects to me, because I have also had my heart broken, and your heart can be broken in so many ways. It's a fundamental aspect of being human. If you think you're never going to have your heart broken, and you have had that, then you've lived a very shallow life. You've never loved anything really hard. So now that speaks to me deeply on all those levels, because he guided me into it, and then I see what this picture is, and I can relate to it in a very human, concrete way. And we can talk about what people put in art speak on those things, because sometimes you read it and you know less than when you looked at it.
That's true. That's a good point. No, absolutely. Yeah, so which also makes the writing of those speeches too. If we kind of equate the little white card to those speeches, that was really hard, just to say.
It is, yeah.
And then after after those colored beanbags and the little guy on the green ball, it goes into juggling some white rings, and that it's impossible to imagine a color you've never seen before is kind of the punchline of that little white card there. And then it goes into the colored ring cycle, which starts with this idea that sunsets on Mars are blue. And this is also, again, a callback to the cards that they've selected at the beginning before the show started. So at first, the card is their favorite color. Later on, it's we talk about colors being different wavelengths of light. So suddenly it's not just your favorite color, but it's also a specific wavelength of light and blah, 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 how light works. And now it's the color of a sunset on another planet. And then that goes into talking about, again, looking at colors from different perspectives and then I get quite literal about the juggling. It kind of, and I wanted that speech to go from sunsets on Mars are blue, which is quite, I mean, it's off planet, it's off world, it's on Mars. And I wanted it to drill down to the reality of where we are right now, which was, I talk very specifically about where I get the props from, how many rings there are, So it goes from this outer space, completely insane idea that you're on Mars watching a sunset down to, oh, I have 5 of these rings or whatever it is, right? And I kind of wanted that journey to be there. And then I do the ring cycle, which was kind of...
And I thought that you did well, where you sort of said, you said there's how many rings and how many patterns and how many... So you tell them ahead of time, and then in the end you go, I call this the ring cycle. So you got now a whole bunch of juggling is going to come at you, but it's not endless. It's not frivolous. Right. It's very well thought through. And I have placed each of these sets of rings into ways that I think it speaks
that's
to
the
me.
line. Yeah, that's the line I say. I've arranged all these patterns in an order which makes sense to me, much in the same way that when you picked your favorite color, it made sense to you.
And they picked their favorite color, which meaning picking that card in the very beginning.
Yeah, and I like that little line, because when you pick your favorite color, first of all, you have permission to have a favorite color. It's just a cultural thing. You don't need to justify it to me. Like if you picked red right now, I'm not gonna be like, why'd you pick red? That doesn't make any. You can't do that.
You're not
like,
red.
You can take your favorite color. I just gave you permission. Like pick your favorite color. Of course, I can be curious, and if I want to be your friend and know more about you, I can say, why did you pick red? But there's not a wrong answer here. But you have an intuition towards why you picked that color, I think. And normally, and we're conditioned through our lives when we pick a favorite color that you go with your feeling. You go with your gut instinct, right? And that's the best way I could describe to you why I put the juggling patterns in that order. There's not like a textbook where I'm following instructions, and there's not a right or wrong answer where I have to do this pattern before the other one, or it, quote unquote, won't make sense. But it won't make sense according to my feeling. And you can trust me, hopefully, because the truth is I did try those patterns in every order I could. And the truth is, in reality, I did pick every single color of every single ring because I tried the variations. I tried every combination, dude, which was not a very efficient process, and it probably wasn't very smart. I probably could have trusted my feelings more. But I got that from Ivar, and I took it probably a little bit too far or the wrong way, because when I first got those new sets of rings with the new colors on them, I started to compose juggling kind of according to the color of, like, I tried to find a system. And I remember working with Ivar in the studio on that. I tried to find a system. I said, okay, in every single pattern, the rings that go high will be a lighter color shade, and the rings that go low will be a darker color shade. And we did this for a little bit, and Ivar said, you got it all wrong, man. That's not how this works. How this works is that you're an artist, and you're going to make choices according to how you feel and what you think. It's got to be about you.
Yeah.
And so I said, how do I do that? And he said, you take a pattern, it's full of rings, it's however many rings, let's say 6 rings, and you pick what color each of those rings is. And I said, how do I do that? And he said, well, you start with some sort of you start somewhere. Either you start by default, you just randomly pick, or you have a feeling and you don't have to explain it. But then you film it and you watch it back, and do you like that? And do you like it better if this one was more blue or less red? And dude, I did the work. I mean, I did my neurotic juggler OCD over the top, process of like, okay, here's a pattern with 6 rings of different sizes rings, and I have these 18 shades of color. Let's do every permutation of that pattern and pick the one that I think looks the best. And the fun thing is with color, fun in air quotes because it's not fun, is that your feelings change day by day.
Yeah.
So I spent so much time doing that process, and for sure if I went back and did it again now, I'd make different choices. Which
that's
is cool,
the nature
though.
of having.
But it's not
this exhibit, and then the next exhibit you make.
Yeah.
It's the next.
But just to say, it's not like
it's
not like you go through that totally crazy long process and you're like, okay, at least I got it done now.
Yeah.
It's a living, breathing process.
And then somebody looks at it, me, for the first time, and I go, I can't believe you got it right the first time.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, oh, now I see. Right. Like, wow, that's amazing. Like, you cracked it.
Yeah.
I saw all those rings and I was going like, what the hell's going to happen? And now I look at them and I go, that's why. Like, and now I understand, because it's something more than that. So
right.
I mean, that's
yeah. So we had that.
And the ring cycle is the longest. That's like the 12-15 minutes worth of juggling, and you just get to sit and watch what the colors do. And it's also it's not unusual from watching you, but I thought of it yesterday. And by that stage I fully accept it. But it's like, you don't have the drops, but you continuously pick up and put down props.
Yeah.
At the rate which is unparalleled in most juggling that I see, where you like, and here now, like, it becomes part of the rhythm of the thing.
The ritual.
You go up and you do it, and then you finish with that. You go over, you hang them back on the place and grab the next thing, and then comes another pattern. So this becomes a rhythm in itself of how many, was that 40 patterns or something? Or
44, 45.
45 patterns.
Yeah.
So over these 15 minutes, there's 44 times when you go over, take the rings, put them down, pick up some new and go out. So this is like an interesting element that is not common for people to change props.
Absolutely.
45 times, even though it was, let's say it was 10 minutes, 12 minutes, whatever. And it was...
But also just to say, then you can start to play with that. So you establish the ritual of what we're going to see here, right? But then, like, in the middle, there are some remixes and some rewinds and some repeats. And I do some patterns many times the same pattern many times in a row, but with different sets of rings of different colors. And then also there is a little chunk in the middle where I don't change the rings, but I do 5 different patterns in a row. So you can start, what I mean is you can start to play with the compositional quality, because you set up a framework. Yeah. And then the black rings come in the middle, and that's like a new
and
piece
you
of
said that people were like surprised.
Generally they were like, oh, when the black rings came in the middle, it was...
I was like, whoa, because that's almost like when I was listening to Martin Subotnick playing the music, and all of a sudden something came in, and we got a relationship to black, and we haven't seen it since the very opening routine.
Yeah,
it's just changed how I look at this now. Boom, that came in, and then it fades from black to white, and that in the end. And this then is an excellent example of what we have been exploring to go towards visual music, where you just sit there and there's music on, and you're just watching, and you've been tuned to color, tuned to juggling and all of that, and for 12 minutes you sit there and watch, and just like you said, it was a not uncommon comment that bit could maybe have been a bit longer. Like we didn't quite, like, it's like we feel like you're touching on something here.
Exactly.
And we didn't quite
that goes back to my tendency of like making this huge cathedral of an argument towards color is cool instead of spending more time just making color cool. You know what I mean?
But in a certain sense, it's like if the show is 45 minutes, the last section is 15 minutes, so it's a third of the show. So you felt like, but maybe what it is, it's that it's a 1 hour show. 5 minutes goes more to the wrap up and the tuning of whatever, and 10 minutes more goes onto that cycle, and to continue work on it. But all of that, because now you have these aspects of color is changing, you got the when you pick up and change to different colors, when you pick up and do the same rings, when the same rings do several patterns. There's now many things which is now closer to music. It's not just how the balls go. It's that there's so many elements in here now that if you can get people now into the right space, and then comes this bit of music. And was that also Reich? With the percussion music?
It's Third Coast Percussion.
Okay.
Yeah, David Lang. Yeah.
Anyway, lovely to play like xylophones
but definitely,
and
stuff. It's all Reich inspired. It's just it's repetitive, like looping.
And at
you
that
get into
point,
a trance.
I get into the music disappears a little bit.
Yes.
It's just a thing that evolves or whatever along, and you don't quite. So we're just in this space of the only real new information because of the minimalist style of the music. But rhythmical. It's not ambient wishy-washy. It's got rhythm in it. So they know that you're playing with or against or whatever like that. That's going on some subconscious level. But they're then seeing the juggling for what it is. That's the main new information in this thing.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very successful watching it last night in the middle of the night.
I was really happy with it. I mean, also the juggling in that section is quite good. Like, I mean, it's not trivial juggling.
Technical good. And also this, like, which if a lot of people on this podcast are not specifically jugglers, but it's hard to grasp how difficult it is to juggle 3 different sized rings. Just from the extremely limited juggling experience that I have when I'm in my show and I juggle a spatula and a wooden spoon and a knife. The knife is easy to juggle because it's heavy and balanced.
Yeah.
The wooden spoon is way too light to juggle. It's like throwing a styrofoam cup. When I drop, it's because that thing is over or under spun. Because it's so... And I've done that act for so long, and it continues to be... I juggle and I'm by myself and it's all that, but by the time I start relating to the audience and all of that, there's just that changing weight in them. It's very difficult. So yes, it's absolutely non-trivial, the juggling within that one, which is also good when the jugglers come, because they're just like magicians. What's the latest grip to hold the deck, or what's the latest cool thing that you can do that's very difficult, or what's the latest trick that we can buy that we're going, this is cool, like they're on that kind of level, which jugglers will look for that as well.
Like one kind of little personal thing on that piece is that in that piece I juggle 8 rings a couple different times in this current version, and like a couple of the patterns have 8 rings in them. And they're the trickier ones to do. Obviously, they're hard to do, and I'm actually kind of happy that afterwards I've not had a single person come up and be like, "How many rings were you juggling?" It's not about that. I was so happy that they. Do you know what I mean? I was so happy that.
I know what you mean? That it was one of the permanent go-tos in the last show.
From Reflex,
and in fact, there is a whole section of that show.
Do 4,
do 4, do 5, do 6. So we set
That's
that
true.
up because it's something that we wanted to express. And,
it was pretty cool.
And we talked about how in the triangle, you've changed the conversation in Michael Motion's bouncing balls inside a triangle. He has moved the conversation so far that this does not occur to you. And that's, you just did that.
It was nice,
now.
It felt good.
But let's just...
And then just...
the wrapping up.
So then I didn't know how to end the show, right? Like I had these cards and, I called you, what am I going to do with these stupid colored cards? Like, how do I wrap this up? And how do what's the conclusion here? And what's the... where's this all going? And I felt like I wanted to have a conclusion. So I did a couple of things. First of all, I got really meta on the last speech of the show, and I actually said, like, I was wondering how to end the show, and I wanted to have this all come to a conclusion, right? So it kind of has this little meta layer of the end of the show is talking about the end of the show, just for a moment. But then I take the card one more time, the colored cards that they had picked, and then I found this little toy that changes the color. It changes a color into a musical note, basically.
It's got a little reader that scans the frequency of the card, and then it sends it to a speaker. So when you hold the sensor over a color,
it makes a tone.
It makes a particular tone,
and it changes according to the color. Yeah, exactly. And so basically, I test out the sound of some of their favorite colors, and I just kind of wrap that all up, and I say, at first this card was your favorite color. and then it was a wavelength of light, and then it was a color of a sunset on another planet. And now it's a musical note, meaning that this process can go on and on and on. We think we know what something is, and we can constantly uncover the layers and keep going on forever. We can have a curiosity about the world and different perspectives and different viewpoints. And the last kind of point of the show is I say that I can't tell you what all these things mean. So it's a musical note now. So it's a wavelength of light. What should that mean to you? I can't tell you that concretely. Just as I can't tell you concretely what you experience, how you feel, or what you care about. If I juggle a pink ring or a blue ring, I don't know if you care about that. Let's say you do care about that. I can't tell you how that makes you feel. I don't even have words for that, let alone being able to know who you are to tell you that. But what I can say is that where we are in the world and how we look at things, how we choose to view things, has a significant effect on the world around us, because it changes our reality. And in that speech, I also talk about rainbows. Where you are makes it a rainbow, and according to the angle of the sun and the water in the air.
It changes rain, just rain, gray rain, to
all the colors
in the world,
and the same thing for a sunset,
because of this unique standpoint that you have.
And the same thing for a sunset.
And I think in there, to be pedantic, I think you said it's like, because in one way the rainbow, I can't remember, you said something where I go, the rainbow isn't there. But the point is that when you
I said it doesn't exist.
But
it does because you are there.
Yeah. So, but the thing is like, if a set of eyes look in that way, then the rainbow is as real as the rocks that you stand on when you look at it on the beach. So it does exist, but it exists not as a thing in itself, but as like a relationship.
Physical object. Yeah.
It's a relationship. Yes. It's a relationship, and
a point of view.
And that, when I started this podcast in the beginning, I had sort of discovered process philosophy, and I said that I've discovered it, but I don't understand it, and now I still don't understand it, but I've been reading it for the last 2 years with Bergson and with Whitehead and these people, and then I just read a book written by an Aboriginal fella that's called Sand Talk, and I can't remember his name now off the top of my head, and how in all these different aspects you get. And then Ian McGilchrist, who talked about attention as a moral act, he also says, so all of this comes together in this thing, that it's the relations that's in fact the real thing. All the things on their own don't actually exist, because you can't cut them off from the other things. You can't cut the tree off from the roots, because it dies. It can't be without it. It is part of it. And you can make it discrete, but you always have to choose. You have the framing problem, where what is what or whatever. And so the rainbow is as real as a relationship between a father and his daughter is. That's a real person. I'm a real person, but we are also a thing. And the rainbow is there, and it's also real. And and I wouldn't have said that it doesn't exist. I would have qualified it, but nobody listens to this. But I was just thinking it's because it's like, anyway, I love the ending of it.
I mean, I think in that speech, just that word "exist," I meant physically or something. But I take your point totally.
I know so, and that's why I said I'm pedantic and whatever, because I'm totally with you, and I get what it is that you said, and I just wanted to say that now, that it's like going no, because the weird thing about it is that it doesn't actually exist, like as a physical thing, but neither did another sunset. That was something that happened. It wasn't something that was there. They came in and they saw the props, but that wasn't the show. They came in and they saw you, and that wasn't the show. But the show now was the experience and the relationship that you guys had, and all the different things that you pointed at throughout that show, and how much work you put into it, and how many ideas. And we wanted to do this in, like, we do 1, maybe 2 episodes or whatever, and now it's been 3 episodes, and this episode will be like a bonus bonanza episode.
I mean, just to maybe wrap up from my side, is like going back to that idea of the trend right now in contemporary circus, which is to make things very easy to watch, like everything's quote unquote beautiful in the classical definition of beauty, or it's very like, at least here in my world, the world I encounter. Like, shows are they're not abrasive, they're not really pointed, they're really easy to watch. They're really easy to take in. It's a pleasant, beautiful lighting design, beautiful costumes, beautiful people doing beautiful things. It's awesome. I mean, it's great. It can be transcendent, but it's also can be kind of lacking in any sort of bite or any sort of feeling or any sort of truth or any sort of like, you know, like make you feel alive. It's a little bit just like watered down just to sell it easier and to not really ruffle any feathers. And I'm not saying my little speech at the end of Another Sunset was very, you know, crazy.
You didn't stick it to the man.
No, I didn't. But I at least I'm honestly happy watching back on the video that I said something.
Yeah, I think
I'm really
too.
glad I tried to say something, and I really was happy that I said something. And whether that something was how significant it was, I don't know. But I really appreciated that I didn't just go, for me, the easy route of just turning on some music and going to do some juggling, which is what I would have done, well, literally 3 years ago in the pandemic, before the pandemic.
Yeah, and that is also so interesting, and we will talk about that in another episode, because we've already dug into a bit on the difference between concrete performance and abstract performance when we talked about skills, which is like, I was trying to come to terms with what it is, and I'm talking about skill acts and understanding skill acts, that episode is called. And I was trying to get my head around this thing of just showing a whole bunch of juggling versus what it is that I do in my shows. Or whatever, like how those pieces are put together and the levels of meaning that I'm doing. And you're going like, oh, I just show people these different juggling patterns and I have some music on. And that's almost similar. So then I we're digging further into this thing of like what the difference is between those things and how I, in one sense, think then that's like an easy option. I found my thing, ambient music.
Right.
Maybe I made it myself and I juggle to it. Right. And you go, okay, cool. So, because that's also, I found objects and I paint them yellow. That's also a thing. Picasso paints like this and he does blue paintings now. Like it's a thing and it's a face, and maybe, but now it's like interesting. We've done all this stuff of concreteness and stuff, and we're bringing that into the juggling. And we still, in a sense, I'm hoping that what this last show, Another Sunset, and at Reflex, that it is opening up to other people and to you as an artist, opening up more about what juggling actually is, and that it's allowing other jugglers and normal people, whatever that means, they also can grasp more of what the aspects that you see in juggling and that I see in juggling and I see in circus in general as the potential of it, and that this has been part of that process of unearthing it.
Great.
Thanks so much for taking so much time to talk about the
Thanks for asking me and caring to ask me about any of this. That's awesome.
I find it really interesting how difficult it can be to actually describe what one's process is. I find frequently when people talk about their process, and I do the same thing, where you start to tell a story which becomes more reasonable with each telling. Or you sort of go, I see that this and this and this and this is how it happened, whilst in the moment of when you're actually creating it, the details of how it actually happened are so elusive. It's difficult to pin down. And I think that's partly why this project also, which is so big in scope, and that it's been taken a while to explore. And I hope that you people I know that a lot of you do, like to go deep in these kind of processes. And there might not actually, I don't know of any other podcasts that go this deep on creation as what we have done here now. And if you do know of that, please send me an email on thewayoftheshowman@gmail.com and tell me about it, because if there is, I would love to be listening to that podcast. Anyway, also if anyone you have any ideas of who I should potentially talk to, not for this season, as this season is already kind of booked up and full, but as I'm finishing the next season where I will be talking to you about my ideas at great length, then I will start up another one. And where should this potentially go? Well, you could be part of deciding that. send me an email at thewayoftheshaman@gmail.com, or start to follow us on The Way of the Shaman at Instagram, and then maybe I'll see you there. That'll be all for now, and until next time, take care of yourself and those you love, and I hope to see you along the way.